With as bad of a year as 2020 has been, and with little good news on the horizon, the only thing I have to truly make myself feel better is seeing a billionaire taken down a peg or two, and we've got a great example of it for you today. Joining us on the show is Klip Einstein, pseudojournalist and douche-about-town. Now, Ken, that's not your real name, but that is what one of the most powerful individuals on the planet called you recently. What is going on?
Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna come back from that. Klip Einstein. If the kids in elementary school had known that one, I don't know if I would have developed into the person I am.
It would have been, you'd be done. But no, that is what you have been christened by Elon Musk, billionaire, politically connected. His company now valued more than any other car company, or Coke, or all of these things. So how did we get to the point that you now have this epic feud with the guy that people used to compare to Tony Stark?
Well, I've never reported on him formally, but he is a sort of figure of spiritual significance to a certain kind of Reddit libertarian, let's call him. I've said before that he's like a megachurch pastor for atheists, and it's not primarily the cultural stuff that I have a problem with. It's the ahistorical description of how he came to be who he is, which by and large, and he's fed into this, is this image of a kind of Tony Stark figure that just through his entrepreneurial chops was able to innovate his way into becoming one of the 200 richest people on the planet. And if you look at the facts around it, he was born to an extraordinarily wealthy family. The kinds of solutions that he's proffering up that I think give a lot of well-meaning people hope with respect to climate change and things, making electric cars, things like that. If you sort of look at that, I mean, how many people are going to be able to afford an $80,000 car or however much it is? These are not systemic solutions. I'm not saying, go ahead, buy your car that's electric, but what we need is really a political solution that business is not going to be able to offer, which is mass transportation. That's going to really reduce the amount of fossil fuels that are put out into the air. Yeah. Not these sort of consumer-based solutions that, frankly, the vast majority of people are not going to be able to afford.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I certainly don't consider myself a libertarian, but I bet if you go back far enough, I probably looked up to him back before we knew much about him. He seemed like, man, like he'll just come up with an idea and then he'll do something about it. We'll have Hyperloop soon or something. And then as the years go by, you realize this is perhaps a bigger mess of a man than any man has ever messed. Like starting fights with like the people trying to save kids trapped in a cave by calling them pedo man and things like that. It just got weirder and weirder and weirder. And I think that the incident with you might be the culmination of that, where you had been tweeting to him and about him, and he took it apparently very personally, right?
Yeah, so I put out a picture, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is said to have been, reportedly the madame of Jeffrey Epstein, who was tasked with, procuring and grooming these underage women to become, frankly, sex trafficking victims. It's what it's reported to be. There was a picture of her posing next to Elon Musk. And so just the day that she was arrested, I thought it was newsworthy to bring up this picture that had already been in the public domain. This is nothing new. I put it out and just said, oh, by the way, did you guys notice this? It'd be interesting to see his response to it. And people started replying to his tweets with it. It's such a ferocity that you could just scroll through his Twitter and every reply was just that photo again and again and again and again. And it must have gotten to him because he ended up having a very public meltdown about all of this, saying that Twitter needs to ban people that are, guilty of bullying and target harassment, which is rich coming from a person like him who's been reported in Bloomberg targeted a Tesla whistleblower.
Yes.
And according to that report, people hacked his phone. There were people following him around trying to dig up dirt on this individual. And so I just had to laugh when I hear out of the mouth of Elon Musk, the words bully, not to mention the relative power dynamic here, one of the 200 richest people who probably knows everyone in Silicon Valley. And as much as I'd like to believe I'm the center of the universe, I don't know that I have the amount of power that someone like he has.
Well, so you say that, but you did make a multi-billionaire's brain melt. So you have some power, let's give you that much. Yeah, and so look, you're totally right about the whistleblower, but also like he is, whether he is still using your name or not, you are very much on his mind and have been for days. And he's tweeted multiple times over the past 72 hours about banning accounts and things like that. This is, of course, a guy who's very often talked about how we need to cancel culture, and he doesn't like people being canceled. And you didn't even, like, all you did was bring up a photo that exists. You didn't take it, you didn't post for it. It's real.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't edited. It was already in the public domain. The only difference in terms, I didn't even report it. I just got some people to talk about it. And you see a news hook, a time, and an opportunity to get people to care about something they might not care about. Which in this case is not just the picture. He's acting as though, I saw her one time, big deal. But this is one of several examples of associations between him and Epstein world. So, for example, in the New York Times, Epstein alleged to one of the Times reporters that he had been tasked with picking senior leadership officials for Tesla. Now, I should point out that Musk denies that, but that's not the only association. It was also reported in Business Insider that Musk's brother had been set up with a girlfriend by Jeffrey Epstein.
Wow.
There's another report that Epstein and his entourage, as it was described as, was given a private tour of SpaceX. So if this was just one-off photo, I understand rich people see a lot of people, they don't have time to vet everybody. But this is part of a web of associations, and that's why I thought it was newsworthy.
And that tour, that is after people knew who Jeffrey Epstein was.
Oh yeah, that cannot be stressed enough. So this is after not only it was, Epstein had been charged, but he had been convicted and sentenced of, I think it was trafficking minors. And so billionaires are not ordinary people like you or I. High society, they talk a lot and they worry about optics in a way that folks like us can't even conceive of. So I find it very hard to believe that he wouldn't have been, that he wasn't either aware or made aware of, what Maxwell and Epstein and that whole world was up to.
Exactly. And so one of the things I find interesting about this is that he really can't stop thinking about this. He's tweeting about this topic. I think you had pointed out in a screenshot at like 6 a.m. He's waking up early to tweet about this. But you made clear on Twitter that like you brought this up, but it's not like you're not trying to do reporting on Elon Musk. But now, because of his overreaction, you might sort of be forced to do some stories, right?
Yeah, there was an avalanche of people reaching out with tips. Former Tesla employees, people I've been friends with. His exes, people described to me, people that he'd been close with, being made to sign very extensive and restrictive NDAs. So for example, his ex-wife ended up making a statement after all this that read almost like, she had been put up to it because the language, as several lawyer friends told me, read as though it had been passed through several attorneys. She's trying to downplay his visit to their visit to, I think it was one of Epstein's homes, where the picture was, I can't remember there's so many different instances, but so she's trying to downplay these associations. And it really ends up making it sound a lot worse, I think. And so I don't really understand why they came up with it, but the language of the statement was very odd. It was like, to the best of my knowledge, I do not know Maxwell. However, I may have been introduced to her. And it just ended up, producing a lot more smoke around this issue that I can't imagine was what he intended to do. But that really, I think, typifies his response to this generally, which is to take something that really me and maybe a few other people notice and blow this up into, frankly, international news story that's been covered all over the world now.
It's like the Barbara Streisand photo thing. Like, good job managing your PR there. So you've had all these people reach out to you with tips. Are you prepared to drop any scoops on TDR today?
Not anything that I've nailed down enough yet, because as his interest in me grows, Musk, so too does my anxiety about his legal resources and his litigious nature. So I'll be careful about this, but I think I might have something in the near future.
Okay, well, you're definitely right to be worried, because he has political connections, he has money, and he has nothing else to spend his time on but dealing with not a newborn kid or whatever, just you. So hashtag
on the 4th of July.
Ken Klippenstein.
On the 4th of July, no less. Exactly. I mean, there's points where he's tweeting at me and I'm like, I have to go talk to my family. We're doing a group Skype call. Like I want to, and it's like, and then it occurs to me, it's like, wait, he is an infant kid. Like how do I have more family obligations than he does on a national holiday,
Yeah, 100%. Well, we, await with a lot of excitement, the reporting that will eventually come of this. But as always, thank you for your fight against the billionaires and for your reporting. And I want to make sure that he gets your name right, Ken Klippenstein. Thank you for joining us.
Good to talk to you, John.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.